At 4:17 local time, the radar lights up for a split second. Not a sweep, not interference. One solid return, heavy and fast, appearing where nothing is expected to be. At first, the room barely reacts. It never does. Screens glow, consoles murmur. One watchstander leans closer, eyes narrowing, hands frozen above the controls. The contact holds for a breath, then sharpens into something undeniable. New track, someone says, voice flat, controlled. The plot stabilizes, altitude rising, speed increasing. No transponder, no civil identifier, no friendly code. The bearing fits nothing familiar, not regular traffic, not weather, not anything that should be here. A second sensor confirms it, then a third. The room exhales, not from relief, but from certainty. This is not noise. This is a message. A timeline begins. The track surges through airspace bands no commercial aircraft uses. It does not drift. It does not correct. It commits. The path is straight, deliberate, calculated to reach the edge of monitored airspace at an exact minute. Whoever is flying knows the geometry, knows the boundaries, knows exactly how near is near enough. Condition 3, the officer of the watch says quietly. The words change the room. Chairs roll back, headsets settle into place, a pen clicks and starts moving. Another return appears on thermal imaging. Hot, sustained. 4 engines feeding a large airframe that shows no hesitation as it climbs. The signature is wrong for a patrol platform, wrong for a transport, wrong for anything meant to look routine. The engines burn with steady confidence, neither sprinting nor idling, holding a profile used only by long-range strategic aircraft. No one says the name yet. Then the contact crosses another speed mark. The numbers continue to rise. On the screen, the plotter draws a clean, stable line, free of the jitter that comes with doubt. This aircraft was built for altitude, built to remain there for hours, built to be noticed. A supervisor steps forward. He never touches the console. He doesn't need to. The data is clear now. Variable sweep wings, long fuselage, heavy central mass where mission systems would sit. The calculations resolve into a shape everyone in the room recognizes before the software finishes confirming it. The identifier flashes. For a moment, nobody speaks. It is not shock. It is not fear. It is recognition. A strategic aircraft. Its course does not change. Calls go out across the emergency frequencies. Professional, standard, calm. The words vanish into open air and return with nothing. No acknowledgement, no courtesy, no attempt to play confused. The silence itself is an answer. The aircraft keeps climbing. At this height, the air thins and the horizon begins to curve. From here, a crew sees beyond storms, beyond routine traffic, beyond the ordinary business of flight. From here, every radar sweep matters. Track steady, the watchstander reports. The captain enters without ceremony. He stands behind the chairs, hands folded, eyes fixed on the display. He asks for no summary. He doesn't need one. The line on the screen is already telling the story, minute by minute. Speed, altitude, bearing, no deviation, no hesitation. Log everything, he says. The aircraft reaches its planned altitude and levels off with perfect precision. No overshoot, no correction. The engines settle into a tone that suggests endurance. Then the course shifts by a single degree, just enough to test response times without crossing a legal limit. Just enough to force a decision. Phones remain silent. No public statements. No alerts. Somewhere else, other rooms are studying the same data. Somewhere else, crews are already moving. Here, the only sounds are the soft hum of electronics and the scratch of ink across paper. Another call goes out. Another refusal. The aircraft closes on the invisible line, the one everyone knows even when it is never drawn. The time available for response begins to shrink. Minutes matter now. Soon, seconds will. Closest point of approach is dropping, the plotter says. Not by accident, by design. The aircraft is flying the razor's edge of escalation, testing discipline, measuring reaction, pressing without crossing. The captain gives a single nod. Hold. No one blinks. The contact moves on, massive and completely untroubled. A machine designed to apply pressure without ever releasing a shot. It does not hurry. It does not hide. It moves as though the sky already belongs to it. And in that calm, controlled advance, the message becomes impossible to misread. This is not a navigation mistake. This is deliberate. At 4:29, the aircraft still does not turn. It holds course, steady and unapologetic, engines burning with a confidence that leaves no room for doubt. This is not a transit. This is not a routine patrol. It remains exactly within the envelope where reaction time matters and errors become headlines. Another call goes out. Same wording, same calm voice. No answer. Then the track accelerates again. Not dramatically, just enough to cut valuable minutes from the response window. The shift is subtle, but everyone sees it. Speed increases with no matching climb or descent. The aircraft is optimizing. Whoever sits in that cockpit is not improvising. Velocity up, the plotter says. That is when alarms begin sounding elsewhere. Orders move through bases that were already half awake. Hangar doors slide open, floodlights snap to life. Pilots move at a jog that nearly becomes a sprint, helmets tucked under their arms, muscle memory taking over before thought can catch up. Ground crews break in every direction with practiced urgency. Hands race across panels, ladders drop, safety pins come free. Engines come alive one after another, their deep roar cutting through the last darkness before dawn. Inside the command room, the screens multiply, new feeds appear, airfields flare to life. Timelines begin to overlap. The strategic aircraft continues forward, and the response rises to meet it. No one says the next word out loud. It's all understood without being said. The aircraft reaches another altitude checkpoint and locks in, perfectly aligned with a profile every analyst in the room knows by heart. This is the layer where configurations matter, where range becomes real, where posture shifts from symbolic to operational. Still no response on the radio. Track stable, someone reports. The aircraft makes a slight adjustment, less than a degree, but enough to set calculations racing. The new heading aligns with nothing civilian. It crosses no standard routes. It avoids weather with precision that feels almost surgical. This path isn't accidental, it's chosen. That's when the first NATO fighters lift off. On the screens, they appear as sharp, accelerating triangles, climbing fast and turning toward a calculated rendezvous point. Not too aggressive, not too passive. This isn't a pursuit, it's geometry unfolding in real time. Inside the cockpits, the distance begins to close. The pilots stay quiet, breathing steady, hands relaxed on the controls. They've done this before. Maybe not with this aircraft, not under these exact conditions, but the rules don't change. Identify, shadow, don't provoke, don't disengage. Back in the command center, the larger aircraft still dominates the display. Bigger, slower to maneuver, impossible to ignore. Its emissions are controlled, deliberate, scanning in patterns meant to gather information without crossing any line that would justify escalation. This isn't random probing, it's calculated collection. Electronic activity confirmed, the electronic warfare officer says. Passive, but active enough. The captain says nothing. This is expected. The aircraft is close now. Close enough to observe reactions, close enough to feel attention, close enough to force a response without demanding one outright. The fighters climb into position, leveling off on an intercept path that brings them in from the side. Not head-on. That would escalate things. A lateral approach sends a different message. Control, not confrontation. The aircraft doesn't react. No turn, no speed change, no defensive posture. It moves forward as if everything unfolding around it was already factored in. Minutes pass. The gap shrinks to visual range. Sensors confirm what the radar already showed. Massive wings, variable geometry, engines built for endurance. A machine designed for global reach, now holding position at the edge of someone else's tolerance. Still no radio call. The fighters slide into formation, offset and disciplined. Close enough to see details, close enough to be seen. This is where misunderstandings can spiral. Two crews, both trained for dominance, sharing the same slice of sky, held apart only by procedure and restraint. Then the aircraft makes another adjustment. Not away, toward. Inside the command center, the ticking of a clock feels louder than it should. If it holds this vector, someone says quietly, we're inside the decision window. The captain gives a single nod. No change in orders. The fighters hold their positions. The aircraft continues forward, steady and unshaken. The sky isn't crowded with traffic, it's crowded with consequences. Every movement is recorded, every second marked, every system listening. This is no longer about detection, it's about nerve. At 4:41, the distance closes to the point where even the smallest movement carries weight. The fighters remain offset, carefully positioned to appear non-threatening, close enough to read surface details through their sensors. The aircraft fills their displays, long fuselage, wings locked in cruise configuration, engines steady, no evasive movement, no defensive signals, no hint of surprise. It flies like it expected this. Inside the intercepting aircraft, the pilots remain silent. They don't need words. Their displays are stable, parameters clean, systems safe, cameras recording. This is documentation, not confrontation. The aircraft holds altitude with precision, and that matters. At this level, the air supports optimal range and sensor performance. At this level, capability is no longer theoretical. Back in the command center, the electronic picture sharpens. Emissions remain controlled but present. Radar modes tuned to observe without provoking. A careful balance, enough to collect, not enough to trigger. They're painting, the electronic warfare officer says. Selective. That's not chance, that's skill. The fighters maintain position. Their own systems stay quiet, relying on passive detection and shared data. Silence in this moment is strength. Every second without transmission is a second of denied information. Then the aircraft makes another move. Subtle, almost invisible unless you're watching closely. A slight shift of the nose, a fractional change in heading. The plotted line bends inward again. A probe, not a commitment. Inside this window, this is where situations can unravel. The rules are clear but unforgiving. If the aircraft continues, reaction time drops to seconds. If it turns away, everything cools without a word. If it holds steady, the tension stretches. Fragile, uncertain. The fighters adjust with it, mirroring the geometry without closing the gap. Discipline over instinct. Presence without pressure. Maintain position, the lead pilot says. Calm and controlled. Every word recorded. No response. From this angle, sensors pick up the engine heat signatures. Even. Balanced. No spikes. No signs of preparation for sudden movement. The aircraft isn't bracing. It isn't retreating. It's waiting. In the command center, the captain leans forward slightly. Still silent. Watching the clocks, the vectors, the margins narrowing. This is the tightest point. The place where escalation lives. Closest point of approach, 1.5, the plotter reports. The gap continues to shrink. The aircraft holds altitude, holds speed, and holds the moment right on the edge. That's the message. It speaks without words. Control, confidence, precision. The crew knows exactly how close they can get, and exactly where the boundary lies. The fighter cameras capture everything. Markings, panel seams, antenna layouts. Every detail becomes valuable data, collected in real time without a single aggressive move. The aircraft is being documented whether it wants to be or not. Then another shift. This time, not direction, timing. A slight drop in speed, almost invisible but enough to change the intercept geometry. The window stretches, seconds are added, and seconds matter. Inside the fighters, breathing stays slow, no sudden movements. No one reaches for controls they don't need. No raised voices, just discipline held at extreme speed. Intent unclear, an analyst says. That's the point, comes the reply. Ambiguity is leverage. The aircraft's radar pauses for a fraction of a cycle, then resumes. The fighter warning systems stay silent. No lock, no alert tone. The line remains uncrossed, for now. Up here, the sky looks calm. Sunlight reflects off metal. Vapor trails stretch thin and straight. To anyone watching from afar, it might seem almost peaceful. It isn't. Every system is active. Every operator is calculating. Every second without escalation raises the stakes of whatever comes next. The aircraft reaches the edge of the invisible line, not drawn on maps, but defined by doctrine and restraint. It holds there, balanced perfectly. For a moment, nothing changes. No turn, no signal, no words. Inside this window, silence is louder than anything else. This is the moment, someone says quietly in the command center. Not a question, a fact. If it moves forward, the response will be immediate. If it turns away, it all ends without a scene. Both sides already know the outcome of every possible move. The fighters hold position. The aircraft hesitates, and in that hesitation, everything seems to pause, because this is where miscalculation becomes history. At 4:46, something shifts. Not in the sky. The aircraft is still there, engine steady, wings fixed. The fighters remain in place, offset and controlled. From the outside, it looks frozen, metal and vapor suspended high above the earth. But beneath that stillness, everything changes. In unseen rooms, new timelines activate. Quietly, precisely. No signals, no visible movement. The response doesn't announce itself. It adjusts. A message moves up and down the chain in seconds. Short, direct, unmistakable. The geometry in the sky remains unchanged. That's intentional. Movement invites interpretation. Stillness forces thought. The aircraft continues its measured scans, but the pattern tightens. Shorter cycles, narrower arcs. It's listening more closely now, testing the environment. And something has changed. Subtle, almost undetectable without a baseline. Background noise shifts. Passive returns begin to layer differently. The sky isn't louder, but it is fuller. The crew would sense it before they could explain it. Inside the fighters, nothing changes. No switches move, no systems activate. Cameras keep recording, silence keeps speaking. The positions remain exactly where they should be. Close enough to matter, far enough to stay controlled. Hold, comes the instruction again. Same word, same tone. Then the aircraft makes its move. Not forward, not away. Sideways. A shallow turn measured in degrees, not intent. It bleeds distance laterally without giving up position. A subtle adjustment, wrapped in uncertainty. In the command center, the display reacts instantly. Vectors shift, calculations update. The change buys time, seconds, then minutes. That's a signal, an analyst says. The captain nods, expression unchanged. This isn't a win. It's a conversation, carried out in miles, angles, and energy. The fighters adjust in sync, matching the lateral drift without closing in. No pursuit, no pressure, just steady presence. The aircraft reduces speed again, slightly. Enough to change the equation, not enough to make it obvious. Now the window begins to open instead of close. Timelines stretch, the edge softens, its emissions shift too. Not gone, never gone, just less probing. Like someone stepping back from a door they were listening through. The fighters remain silent. Somewhere beyond sight, additional elements move into position. Quietly. Layers forming. Redundancy building where none was visible before. The sky looks the same, but the outcome is changing. The crew knows it. They read the same signals. Aircraft like this aren't just built to project power. They're built to read the environment around them. Then, another turn. This one is clear. The nose angles away from the line. Not sharply, not dramatically, but enough to break the geometry that defined the entire standoff. It's not a retreat that draws attention. It's a decision, made carefully and understood by everyone watching. It pulls away in a way that saves face. Inside the intercepting fighters, nothing changes. They don't close the distance. They don't signal. No gestures, no theatrics, just steady, professional restraint to the very end. Vector confirmed, diverging, the plotter says. The captain exhales almost imperceptibly. No one speaks. No one celebrates. There's nothing to celebrate. The aircraft made its decision, and because of that, the sky is already safer. The fighters hold their position a moment longer, watching the trend. The distance begins to grow, first by fractions, then by miles. Altitude remains steady, but intent has shifted. The window closes, not with noise, but with calculation. This is how it ends, someone says quietly. The aircraft continues on its new course. On the screen, the line bends away from tension. No calls, no statements, no final gesture. The response was quick, but never loud. No threats, no drama, just geometry, discipline, and the understanding that sometimes the strongest message is the one never spoken. As the gap widens and the sky begins to clear, one thing becomes obvious in the room. The message landed, and it didn't need a single word. At 5:02, the aircraft exits the monitored sector. Not suddenly, not dramatically. It leaves the same way it arrived. Steady, controlled, almost routine to anyone not watching closely. The track stretches outward, thinning with distance. First a solid return, then smaller. Then just a symbol, then nothing. The fighters don't follow. They stay long enough to confirm the shift, then ease back along their own paths. Engines settle. Fuel systems update automatically. No victory laps, no signals. It's already over, and dragging it out would say more than anyone intends to say. Back in the command center, the room finally exhales. Screens rewind, data layers stack, timelines replay, second by second. Not for drama, for discipline. Every speed change, every slight adjustment, every pause in emissions is logged, compared, analyzed. This is where the real work begins. There's no announcement, no press release, no carefully crafted statement. Because in modern deterrence, silence isn't emptiness, it's control. The record will speak later, if it ever needs to. The captain stays until analysis is underway, then steps back. His role was never about headlines. It was about preventing one. Around the room, logs are finalized. Pens move, keyboards tap. The professionalism never fades. This didn't end because someone lost. It ended because the numbers stopped supporting risk. Event resolved, the officer of the watch says. Not defeated, not pushed back, resolved. The wording matters. Outside, the sky looks exactly the same. High-altitude trails drift and fade. Commercial flights move along their routes, miles away, unaware of how close the morning came to becoming something else. That's intentional. In the hours that follow, briefings spread outward. Not explanations, not warnings, just facts. The kind that quietly adjust posture without drawing attention. This is what modern deterrence looks like. No launches, no shots, no statements. Just a clear understanding of limits, respected without being crossed. Far beyond the horizon, the aircraft continues its mission. The crew returns to routine, already forming their own version of events. Precise, technical, careful with every word. They'll note the intercept, the positioning, the moment when something in the air shifted. Back here, the logs are complete. Timestamps frame the event, beginning, peak, resolution. It becomes another entry in a long list of encounters that never reached the headlines, and never needed to. Because the real outcome wasn't in the turnaway. It was in what didn't happen. No mistakes, no escalation, no irreversible decisions made at altitude. The system held. Not because it was loud or fast, because it was disciplined. This is the part most people never see. Not the intercept itself, but the restraint around it. The training that keeps voices steady. The procedures that keep hands still. The confidence to hold position when instinct says move. Still, one question lingers. Quietly, unspoken. What if it hadn't turned? The answer exists, But it doesn't need to be said. Everyone in that room already knows how quickly calm can collapse once certain limits are crossed. And that understanding is exactly the point. The departure doesn't close anything. It adds another line to the record, another data point, another measure of resolve. Tomorrow, the sky will be watched again. The boundaries will remain invisible, the systems will stay ready. And if another contact appears where nothing should be, if another aircraft tests that same edge, the response will look just as uneventful to anyone not paying attention. Because the most effective show of strength is the one that never becomes a fight. No shots taken, no launches, and yet everything changed.